industries. I've been a filmmaker for nearly 20 years, and I've been working in various areas, also as an editor and motion graphic designer. So I came in touch with storyboards through my work, all through my career. So the storyboard as a concept, like as a tool.
Sometimes it's really good to have a big injection of learn this instead of trying to discover it yourself 5 years from now.
And if I want to tell you what was my vision, basically what I'm going to do with it, I need something else than just text. And that's where the storyboard comes in. So it's not a replacement of your script. You have two options basically how to communicate this. You can do it in text, you can write it down, give it to someone to read, or you can draw it. You make a series of images that kind of visually represent what your vision is, what you're going to do with the text basically.
Hey everybody, welcome to the channel AiDIY. AiDIY.tech is the website. Today we're meeting with Marcus Etter that does Story-boards.AI. Now, the reason I did this is I wanted to look for a storyboard application because it was really messy when I'm doing my music videos. So I sort of found it. I thought this is a pretty good piece of software. I reached out to Mark. He let me sort of trial the stuff and sort of go deep. And then was like, why don't we just talk? Because I think this could benefit the community, specifically people making AI music that are new to the storytelling part of it and are finding it sort of messy like I've been finding it. And there's a lot more really cool tools other than just straight storyboarding that go in there. And I just want Marcus to talk about that and talk about his development process and all that stuff. So Marcus, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for introducing yourself to me, and thanks for coming on and hopefully answering some really cool questions. Just maybe talk about yourself a little bit so we sort of get an idea.
Yeah, sure, Matt. Hi. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. It's very nice. Yes, I've been actually from the film industry, so I've been a filmmaker for nearly 20 years. And I've been working in various areas, also as an editor and motion graphic designer. So that's kind of my roots, if you want. And so I came in touch with storyboards through my work, all through my career. So I was.
So the storyboards application or the storyboards?
The storyboard as a concept, like as a tool,
yes,
how to use it. Yes. So I've been using that for many years, and I always knew the importance of it at various stages in media productions, and not just media productions, actual visual storytelling as a bigger thing. And but I'm also quite a nerdy guy, so I've always been into tech and coding and electronics. And then 2 years ago, it kind of the AI wave hit me. As I think it was back when OpenAI brought out their first GPT version, and was fascinated by it. So I was using it every day for various purposes, and it became quite clear what AI can do for one. Even though it was very specific applications I was using it for, it was not at all for storyboarding at this time. It was more text-related work. I also played around with those first image generation tools that's been around back then.
DALL-E
And it was
or
just,
whatever.
yeah, DALL-E was the first one I remember that I've been trying. And it was fun to use it, but there was no practical use case for it because it was limited, you know.
We'll get into that because that's very much a feature that I want to build on. But keeping in mind, I'm just going to keep in mind with what my audience is, right? A lot of us are people who have not created at all. We have no idea of any of this stuff, and we're like, you know, stumbling along the way and sort of learning it. And sometimes it's really good to have a big injection of learn this instead of trying to discover it yourself 5 years from now. Just tell us, I guess, what a storyboard is. That's a really good start with this too.
Of course. So the concept of using storyboards, it's been around from the very beginning of motion cinema, actually. It's you use it basically to communicate a visual concept to a third party, to your stakeholders. Let's take the example of film, which is the most obvious use case, basically. So if you're planning to make a film, a music video, or any type of motion picture, any type of visual story, basically, you're going to have to kind of communicate that to someone at one point. And there's various points in the production life cycle where you're going to need to do that. Very, very important is at the very beginning. I mean, you're going to have to tell someone what you're going to do, right? And ideally, someone is going to fund your project or is going to sign off on your project and so on. So you have two options basically how to communicate this. You can do it in text, you can write it down and give it to someone to read, or you can draw it. You make a series of images that kind of visually represent what your vision is, what you're going to do with the text basically. And text, when it comes to that, is very limited. So if I give you
Especially
my
there's different types of people. There's people that can read something and understand something completely, and there's some people that cannot handle that and they need visuals.
if I write down a story, I have pictures in my mind, basically. If I give it to you to read, you have different pictures in your mind. It's just
Yeah.
your set of experiences, your set preferences, whatever. So you can imagine something completely different. Third person is going to see something different. So a text has many interpretation of the visual outcome, basically. And if I want to tell you what was my vision, basically what I'm going to do with it, I need something else than just text. And that's where the storyboard comes in. So it's not a replacement of your script in any means. It's complementary. Like you're still going to read what it's going to be, but you're also going to
Yeah.
have a set of images that going to show what I thought it should look like in the end. And that's where storyboards come in. And you're going to need that at the very beginning. You're going to need that when it goes into production. You're probably going to need that in post-production as well, because someone else is going to work on it, and you're going to have to somehow show what the outcome is supposed to be.
Yeah. So in our case, I suppose people are just now starting to talk about collaborations between different AI musicians. Like, and it could be that someone is really good at writing the song, and I get a lot of submissions through my site that are people that just have it in Suno, or if they put it up on YouTube, it's a static image. But I see a lot of people asking questions in the Facebook groups like, how do you make an AI video, right? Like they have the songs, they're really good musicians, but now there's other people that are really good at creating, videos, and maybe you want to communicate back and forth with that. I think, would you say that's a good collaborative way to use storyboards like that?
It is a natural extension of a storyboard.
Yeah.
It's a pre-visualization of a story, basically. And that also has been around as a concept for many years. It's been used like in professional productions. The previs stage is going to come at one point where you're going to take what you boarded out in single frames and you're going to pre-visualize it, making short, very often very super rough animation of what's going to happen in each frame. And that used to be sometimes very, very primitive 3D animations, with box
Yeah.
primitives and circles and spheres. But it would help to even indicate what the motion is, what the action is in each frame as well. And yes, you're right. Now with AI, this is actually super, super helpful. You can even I had some people saying like, yeah, but you still need storyboards in that age of AI. Like you can map it out straight in AI. You can, first of all, and if you want to, you can go down this route, and you can try and build your story with AI clips as you go. And sometimes you do one that you like, then you do one that you don't like, you erase that one, do the next one, and so on, and
It's
build.
so it take like honestly, I've been doing it that way, and now I've got storyboard. It's gonna save me probably 2 weeks on every video. The way
It's
it does.
it's going to sort out your thought process before that. It's much faster, and it's so once more money is at stake and once more time is involved in these projects, you're going to have to kind of do it in stages. You cannot just build it randomly and hope for the best result. You will want, or you're actually paid for to guarantee that you turn over someone's exact vision. And if you're the director on this, you don't want to make it up on the go. Like you have a vision from the get-go. If someone pitches you an idea, you're like, yeah, I'm probably going to do it this and this way. So you will have to map it out basically. And
Yeah.
so therefore the storyboard still has its place. It's your first canvas of your idea, and that you can now iterate through very, very quickly as well. Also something that is quite new in the process.
Yeah.
You couldn't really before.
And that's awesome, and I love it. Before I get to some really cool features that make this different than I guess just storyboarding, and I think that are like brilliant things to bring to this community. You mentioned you've been in the movie industry for 20 years. What is at least one that like people like, yeah, I know that one. Like what's a big one that you've been in that someone would might know?
Most likely none of them, because I was more in the corporate sector of motion
Ah,
pictures. And the corporate sector is, I mean, some of them, a lot of it is public, obviously, but it's not used for commercial purposes. Like I
yeah.
had some stints in TV ads, but they were rare and were not my main source of work, basically. So in the corporate industry, you do training videos, you do what is it called, like in company videos that are used
Ah,
within
yes, yes. Internal
internal,
like
yeah,
training stuff.
stuff
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do put on your website
yeah.
and things like this. So it's
Stuff internally, like if there's a grenade that's in someone's drawer, do you A, pull the pin,
yeah,
or B, not pull the pin?
exactly, exactly,
Right?
stuff like this. More
Fail that
mundane,
one every time, man.
more mundane, and very often not super exciting, but super important stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But the point is, like those require storyboards and all that. Now, yeah, so which they obviously do, and actually a lot of those films they actually come across as storyboards too. Funny enough.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, let me ask you. So let me ask you the cool thing. Like you started talking about AI built into this, and this is like I think like some of the coolest functions of this too. Like what I did with mine was I basically took all my song lyrics and I dropped it in and I said there's this many scenes, and then it basically, you know, like I basically broke them apart into those scenes, and you can basically add scenes between because you want to sort of cut whatever. That's sort of what I did. But tell me about some of the AI features that are built into this that can really help with the visuals, and you could basically take it right from there into production, in my opinion.
A lot of people do now. I wouldn't have thought. See, if you would have asked me that like half a year ago, I would have said like, no, this is not production ready. It's like a
Yeah,
storyboard, but it's not necessarily your full vision. But I see these things being used throughout. And to answer your question properly is if you um, if you drop in that whole script as you just described, and it basically creates the story, the tools involved to do that is that we're going to analyze obviously what you have, and we're going to have to break it down into some structured format that we define, and we're going to have to interpret what your intention, what your vision is, the best as we can. So the final output will be the best we can do about your vision. But ultimately, we don't know your vision. We can't live in your head. So it's a constant improvement of making that final outcome as close as we think the original vision was. When we started to build this tool, this was just one feature, you know, the automated process. We actually built it very much from the ground up to give you all the tools to create each frame the way you envision it. But now it turns out that that's actually not what people want. People want this automated process and want this to come as close to what you had in mind to begin with. And I've seen
yeah,
people not working on individual frames, but rather go through the entire process again from the
yeah.
start, maybe cue it differently to get closer to their vision.
Well, here's a good thing. There's so much there's so much I could literally unpack with this thing that's helpful for the community. And one part is that like it the biggest thing, and in a lot of different ways, it can save you a lot of credits and a lot of money across multiple platforms, especially if you're starting out with the making video process. Like I'm very much thinking about this as people that are like, okay, I've been making my songs. I want to put them to YouTube, and I don't want it to be static images anymore. With this, right? It people use like whatever image creator they use. Then most of them don't use Dolly anymore through ChatGPT because it's just not consistent enough. You want a consistent character. So that like I am a big one of Da Vinci, no, not Da Vinci, Leonardo AI. Like
Mhm.
so, I use Leonardo AI. That has a lot of credits or whatever. They can do consistent characters. But then you take that to like Kling AI or Runway, and there's it just chews up your credits. Like stuff just chews up your credits. If you storyboard it just naturally before you even get to that really robust image creating process, you've already got your story in place. So you're not creating images and then going, oh, that's not quite what I was thinking. You can put everything in each block and know end to end what you sort of have. So already at that, you're already saving credits and time and doing that part. But the other one that I think is really, really cool once you get on the paid plan is that as part of this, it creates images for you. And you can sort of tell it the type of images, like maybe talk about that a little bit. You're going to be able to talk about it a lot better than I am. Maybe even talk about what technology the image creation uses as well. If it's not, if it's proprietary, that's cool as well.
No, it's our own system actually. So for
Wow.
the image analysis part, we still rely on a third party to do the actual analysis and breakdown. We don't do that on our own system, but for the image creation part, we actually built our own image generation pipeline. So this runs on our own hardware, which we rent. Obviously, it's not ours, but it's the GPUs are rented GPUs basically. But the image
Well,
generation,
it's not slow. It's quick. So
it's quick. It can be quicker, so that's always a concern that we have to make it as fast as possible. Obviously, you can't wait around for a minute for an image. But the reason why we did our own was because the technology behind generating AI images is it's inherently it's not suitable for storyboards if you want. There are so many things that a storyboard has to fulfill to become a valuable tool. You just mentioned character consistency, which is one, but it has to be consistent within scenes, style, obviously. So there has to be a connection between each image. And the technology behind it is very much based on randomness. So the first step of creating an image is to create a full noise image, and then step by step unblur it if you want, or denoise it to create image. So randomness is built into the system, and getting two image generations to connect each other and have relevance to each other, may that be the character, the clothing, the scene, and so on, is not something that comes out of the box. So we built this system that can do that, and we're constantly improving on that system to get the consistency right. So the image generation is something that we built basically to
that's crazy incredible to me. Maybe it's like super easy. I don't know. I assume it's not. Otherwise, everybody else would have something at least that good. But the consistent characters are good. Like I don't think the image generation and it also has motion generation based on those images too, which I think is really cool. I don't think it's commercial quality yet, as far as like some of the really high end people that I've seen making some videos based in music. I don't think it would be ideal for them because they're like human. Like sometimes you just can't tell. It's just incredible. This I think would be from beginning to moderate. Before you go to the movie production level, you could actually, I think, right up to that point, use this to tell the story of your music.
You just hit a very important point. You're right. It's not a production level output. You can't. Well, you always can. I'm sure some people do, but it's not meant to be an output that is being used to be published anywhere. So it's still.
In my opinion, I think it would enhance a lot of people's stuff that they're doing right now. I think especially because. I actually think it would be, especially because it's got the consistent characters. I think a lot of feedback I get, like I said, like a lot of my, I guess, subscribers are people who are being creative for the first time, and they don't have huge budgets to pay lots of subscription fees. Like if you wanted to have a subscription fee and tell a story with visuals, I think this is a good product that could do it to sort of get you started off. Definitely, you could. It's got consistent characters and some motion. If you want to create some motion character, you can enhance it to do top down, side, all that stuff. There's little prompts built into it. You know,
it's very you.
Maybe I'm building use cases for you that you don't even know about.
No,
yet.
it is very much on our development
On your
timeline.
radar, you.
It's very much there. It's just we're gonna have to build this in stages, and the video that you mentioned is just a new addition. So we're now in that previs territory that I mentioned earlier. You can pre-visualize like actually the actions of the individual frames, still with the aim of it being a communication tool in the overall production life cycle of
Yeah.
visual
No,
media.
I totally get that part. Just when I saw it, I'm thinking for the people that subscribe to me that are at that stage, I think it's a different use case, I guess, than what you even sort of intended it for.
Uh, It's being, that's a funny thing. It's being used for so many use cases that I didn't envision at the very beginning because it does certain things, it does really, really well. And therefore, it's becoming a suitable tool for other things. Like I had early last year when we didn't even have a product, we had an MVP up, so like this minimum viable product. And
Yeah.
we did have already
So
test
you've
users.
only been prod for about a year.
We last year was about building the concept, the MVP, and actually proving like there's demand for a system like this, and
Yeah.
it's been up in some sort of form since a year, yes, and people have been using it back then as well, and I had some feedback from users already back then where they explained what they are using it for, and I was surprised. Like there was this guy who was creating a graphic novel with it, like a production-ready graphic novel. And
Yeah.
he was fascinated by it and then gave me lots of feedback. We had some chats with each other. And it was great to see like, oh, this is not, it's called storyboards, but it's good for other things as well. And now I think a lot of people are using it to make comic strips straight away
Yeah.
as well.
Well, that's straight. You could basically just feed it
Yep.
and then work on it very little and have a comic strip. That's a good
It
point. Yeah.
it does everything already what it needs to create a comic strip, and for whatever purposes they need, I don't know. Is it like just to visualize a comic strip they want to make? Is it something that they take out of it and actually use and publish in some sort of way? So it would be interesting to hear more feedback from our users to see how
Yeah.
exactly they're using it.
Well, hopefully there'll be some comments down in this video below. By the
Yeah,
way, comment in this video down below.
please do.
Yeah. So that takes us to another thing, and this is heavily on the minds of AI music creators, is the terms of service. So you're saying people are making graphic novels and they're making comic strips and all that stuff. Is there anything explicitly written into your terms of service saying if you create a comic book or you create a music video out of this, you can't monetize it whatsoever? Are there any sort of limitations on that stuff? Especially seeing, I guess, because your AI image creator is proprietary. I guess, I don't know. Maybe talk about that a little bit, just because that is heavily on everybody's mind for all this stuff.
No, everything you create on our platform, you can use for whatever purposes you want, basically, and it's written in the terms as well, and it's for the initial goal of the platform, it wasn't so much of an issue because storyboards hardly ever see the lights of day.
Yeah, right. It's just something that happens in the background. You're not even seeing it, right?
So that there it wasn't a problem at all. But if you want, let's go back to comic books. So if you want to do a comic book or a graphic novel and so on, it's up to you what you do with those images. You created them. It comes with some you're gonna have to think about copyright issues in terms of if you make a Batman comic, you probably could, and you
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
could publish it. I'm not sure if you should.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a pen here, right?
Yeah.
I can use the pen for all legal reasons of my pen, but as soon as I, do something illegal with the pen, it's not the
Yeah.
pen's fault.
Yes. So if you want to publish content that is otherwise copyrighted by third parties, say
There you go.
Disney, Marvel, and so on, you're probably going to get into legal trouble for that because you're not allowed to publish any of it.
Well, let's just say completely original content.
Yeah.
As far as like AI is concerned, in terms of service, or whatever AI platforms you use, and whatever legal to, we're not lawyers. Like, do your own research and all that stuff. But there's no terms explicitly mentioned or specifically mentioned within your platform that says no.
You can use it for whatever you please, exactly. And we don't hold any claims on it. We don't even use your imagery. We hardly know what you do.
Yeah.
So it's all very how do you say, compartmentalized. And so there's hardly any possibility for us to go and see what you actually do. There is
Yeah.
we get some feedback like for the for the video generation, where we also rely on a third party at the moment. I do see in the logs that some requests fail due to moderation issues from the third party, and I don't know what these were all about. So people can use it for whatever they want.
It depends on the guardrails of the third
Yes.
party platform. Like if you go to ChatGPT with Dolly and you say like make me a woman with a bathing suit, Dolly's going to go, no, no, man,
I'm not going to
that's
go there.
you're all you pervert, stay away from me. You know, if you go to Grok or something else, you say make me a woman in a bathing suit, it'll go, yeah, okay, no worries. You know,
You can try anything you want. You will never see any moderation feedback or any failed feedback on our image generation for anything. And it's important to me for many reasons, because we support visual storytellers. We're not here to tell you what is right and what is wrong about what story you want to tell. And if you just want nudity and violence, as an example, are core foundation of movies, basically, have
yeah.
been throughout the years. So we cannot, we do not want to put guardrails on what's your story, basically, you want to tell.
That's really good to hear, especially like you're talking about dark subjects. Like a lot of people are kind of coming out of the woodwork with all these things that they've had built in, like pent up inside for
Yeah.
years, and no way to tell stories. And the AI music has been a way for them to tell the stories. I think this is another step for those same people to be able to do that. And like you're saying, it's good that there's no guardrails built in place, because they can do it. Whether they can publish it or not, I mean, that's not to you. But I mean, you provide a way, or you know, whatever. There might be platforms for it, but you provide a way to make it more clear for those
Hmm.
people to tell that story in a way that people will understand. That's your job and that's your function.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And we're trying to support that on every step of that process, through all the tools that we provide.
That's beautiful. I love that. Let me just ask you, let me delve into a little bit of development too, because I spoke with a developer. Like I've developed my own software like back in 2019 to 2020. So I've been through that, and I've been through enterprise environments where I've been part of projects that develop software as well. And I interviewed someone a couple of years ago that basically got a developer to develop a Google like app, and a really what I thought was a nice one, in about a month, which to me was that's unheard of for me. Tell me about, and this. The reason I want to ask this is because I think there's other ways with some people that want to monetize their AI music, and some people don't want to, whatever. But I think there's ways other than just making the music and then throwing it out there on Spotify, and I think some people are doing that by, oh, quiet Google, you don't know anything. A lot of people are doing that by developing apps and incorporating that music in one way or another.
Yeah.
Maybe just like, how long did it take you? Like, what was your process? How many people you have involved? How do you go about sourcing even budget, anything like that? Because I know a lot of people, and I guess a storyboard would be a good way to explain funding or something like that. And I know it's a broad question, but maybe just touch on that a little bit, because I think app development is an interesting thing to bring into this.
It's a rabbit hole that you have to be very careful if you want to go down.
Yeah,
It's the start is always very different than where you end up to be. So at the
especially
start,
your first one.
yeah.
Especially your first one.
So at the start, we when the idea come up that let's try this, let's see if that even works. I talked about this earlier on when I found out like image generation is actually fun, and let's try to combine all these AI tools and see if we can actually do storyboards. At first, it was just my then partner and myself, and we just built a prototype with the tools that we knew we could operate. Back then,
And
I've come up,
that's an important step too. I don't want anybody to miss that. Is take the stuff that you have,
yeah.
test the market, see if it works, see if there's a real, because otherwise you could be you can be in for 100,000, 200,000, find out there's no market for it, or it
You,
doesn't work.
Absolutely. Again, there's these proving steps you have to go through. So that's you're all going to build towards an MVP, which is a minimum viable product, which is going to you're going to have to launch and throw online and do whatever marketing activity is right for your tool and just see what happens. And when we so back to go to the first step, building the prototype, that was even before that. So we built it with the tools we had. I used Node-RED because it was a visual tool, just to build a concept. It was very hard to use. It was super complicated. It was held together with tape and glue, but it showed promise. It showed like you can actually do this. Not well back then. It wasn't well. It didn't fulfill a lot of these requirements that we talked about that storyboards have, but it showed, and comparing to the exponential progress curve of AI tools in general back then, it showed like we will be able to be good in 5-6 months to really show good tools.
To get you your MVP, 5-6 months to get your
And
MVP.
then we had to build this MVP, and that's the
Oh, you
first.
haven't even gotten the MVP at that.
No,
So
not
yeah,
yet. At this point, we had the prototype. And to build the MVP, we needed a professional. So that's where we had to bring on my new partner on board, who is a full stack developer, a very, very, very talented and clever person. And he basically took the prototype and built an MVP out of it that is actually, it's robust enough to withhold the steady stream of multiple users. And for that, we bootstrapped it. So we paid that by ourselves, basically took our own money in the hand. But once we had that and had the first version online, we knew, so from here on, we're going to need funding. And you mentioned that. So, and that's where the first round of funding surge came in, which is very much the most difficult one. Because scary one, and you shouldn't underestimate it because it's most likely not going to happen in weeks. It's going to happen in months. And at this point,
you're still bootstrapping.
You're still bootstrapping, and you're going to have to hold your breath for until you manage this, because you don't have much at this point. You have something that's kind of working online. You kind of have maybe interest from the public already. Like if it's online for a bit, you can already show there's traffic. You basically have your business plan that says, look, it's a valid idea, but that's just a business plan. You're still gonna have to convince people, like, look, this can really make money in the end, and that's there's your search, and you go through all the hoops that you have to go. We eventually managed to find an initial round of investors that put money in it. And with this, we were allowed to, first of all, finish the MVP, but actually turn the MVP into a proper product. And we only have our product online since January 1st this year.
Really?
Yes.
Well, it's a good product for where it's at. It's got a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving parts that work. So I'm surprised at that it's actually working that well. I mean, obviously, like there's parts of it, like the look and feel of the site and all this stuff could be polished up a little bit, but it's well beyond MVP in my opinion.
It's now we're out of the MVP stage now with
Yeah.
the orange look. We're basically having a fully functional product, whereas the MVP is by definition not exactly 100% functional. It has bugs and this and that doesn't work properly, and you're still learning about the entire process. But the main challenge always was, and we had to learn this the hard way, it's not even so much the AI stuff. We figured out good ways of doing this early on, and of course, they had to be implemented properly for a production environment as well. But building an entire functional app around this, that was new to me, and that took much more time than I thought it would. And now we're a team of 5.
Well, so was it when you got to that? Was it still just you and the developer? Or was it that?
We were 3 back then, and then has been some shuffle in the team as well since then. But now we're a team of 5, and I'm counting myself to one of the developers as well, because I had to learn a lot about the different functional parts as well. So I'm fully active in that team as a developer at the moment. just to support the growing workload, which is insane, basically.
Yeah.
But it's
So you didn't do any development for your movie production or your film
no,
development, so you hadn't done any, and then all of a sudden you're using Jira boards and you're finding out like all this, this
all of a
stuff, and then it's
sudden
all
it's
within like a couple of years and funding and all that. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's, don't yeah, if you want to develop your own app and go online, also do not underestimate this part. So it's not going to get easy soon. It's going to get harder and harder for the very first part. There's more and more work. There's always new work components coming in, and you just don't have a larger team, so you're going to have to take up more of that stuff.
Look, I want to correct me if I'm wrong. This is the part I always found was the hardest in the development. Well, I guess there's a lot of parts, but your developer comes to you and he goes, "These ideas will be a hit. You should totally do that." Sometimes is the hard. Like I don't. That might be the case. Not be the case for you. It's definitely been the case for me. Is because you're bootstrapping it for the most of the time. Is a lot of it like, frig, it's probably true, but no. Right? Have you gone through that at all?
Not in that sense. We didn't. I think he was professional enough and knowledgeable enough not to overload the already large to-do stack
Yeah.
with additional stuff. So we knew we're going to have to add a lot of this stuff in the end, but we've been
In the
quite
end.
focused on getting the core up and running fast. And to have
Yeah.
it
Cool.
and to have it running reliable on a global scale. I mean, at one point you're going to have multiple server instances. You're going to have to serve different areas of the planet. So if you're selling a product worldwide and not just local, then you face a lot of technical challenges that you're going to have to solve in an efficient way. So I think at the beginning it was quite focused on. We wrote down what it has to do at the beginning, and we try not to deviate from this. But obviously, we have a huge ticket wish list of additional
Yeah.
stuff that we want to integrate. I have so many more ideas where this should go,
Yeah.
and it definitely will. But you have to work through your to-do stack, basically. What's
Yeah.
the most important? I think the next
Well,
one
let
is
me.
definitely
This is an important thing to ask too, because again, like hopefully, maybe one out of 2,200, whatever my subs are now, plus whatever I got on Facebook or whatever, might go, "Oh, I do have an idea," and that good, and I think I could go through that. Have I hope you don't mind me asking me this. This is a pretty general when it comes to these business focused parts of it, but when do you plan on basically pulling money out, or have you been able to pull money out to this stage?
Sorry, the question is if I have been pulling money. Yeah, we earn money. Like, we're
No, you
paying.
do. Okay, you've been able. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's like, you start with zero at one point, and
Yeah,
then it's going to grow, and you're hard working towards the point where you break even,
yeah.
and
And
that
this
point,
doesn't always happen that quickly. I'm just trying to make that point that sometimes it's two,
yeah,
3, 4 years before you
and
can actually see money not go back into the business.
that is absolutely correct. You can only grow organically if you do everything right, right? There's marketing, there's technology, there's community management, there's a lot of things that play part in how fast this trajectory, sorry, is
Yeah,
going
you
to be,
got
or
it.
how steep this trajectory is going to be. And you just there's a very natural limit to the steepness of that curve. And you can do research about it. Like if let's say you do a SaaS product like ours, software as a service, there's online research and studies and lists on the historical growth rate of now very successful companies. I mean, there's stuff up for Spotify as an example. I just remember I've been looking at.
Yeah,
There's exceptions like OpenAI,